To begin preparing the pocket, this is a sample of what it needs to look like after the first step. You're going to press the fabric from the right side to the wrong side for 1/4 of an inch to the wrong side. Then you're going to flip it forward to the front side, to the right side again, and this time you'll mark it 1.5 centimeters or 5/8 of an inch from here to here. And so you're going to put those two creases, press them in, and get it prepared to stitch around. So the first thing is to the wrong side at the top of your pocket. Put your, let's get it back to 1/4 of an inch. Put your seam gauge ruler at the top and then get it in position. You can check it. And then pick up the iron and then slide it down and just keeping it 1/4 of an inch all the way across. And then the last time, hold it for about 10 seconds, and that should put a nice creased edge into your apron. Then flip it over to the right side again, and this time move your seam gauge ruler to 5/8 of an inch or 1.5 centimeters and pull it down again. And this time from the top edge there, okay, and start pressing that down. And again, slide it consistently all the way across the top. And then that last bit, hold it for about 10 seconds. This is the top edge of your pocket. It's going to get flipped to the inside to create a facing. But to start getting it ready to sew, we're going to put a perpendicular pin on each end. And I'm going in about 1.5 centimeters when I poke the pin in, just to give me a guide for where I'm going to actually start sewing. And then do the same thing over here, about 1.5 centimeters from the edge, poke the pin through and put it here. Then take it to the sewing machine and you'll be stitching 1.5 centimeters, 5/8 of an inch from the edge on 3 sides, the 2 sides and the bottom and up the other side, and then you'll back stitch at both the top, at the beginning and the end to do that. So let's go do that to this piece of fabric here. You turn your machine on, remember to push the stitch length button 3 times so that you have 2.6. You want your speed on slow to begin with. And to get ready to stitch that guiding edge, you're going to put the edge of the fabric where you can see 1/2 of that hole as you sew, and that will give you the even 1.5 or 5/8 of an inch centimeter. When you put your fabric under the presser foot and put the presser foot down, please remember to push the up and down needle position button to the down position so that you start out with your needle down. That will help you so that it'll always stop within the down position, and that'll make it easier to turn your corners. Okay, you're going to start stitching forward 5 stitches, then back stitch, and then go forward again along that same line. And always your eye isn't really watching the needle, it's watching this hole over here. You want to be having a consistent 1.5 centimeter seam allowance, so I'm just keeping the edge of the fabric right along that line. I should always be able to see half of that hole. Okay, as you come close to the end, you want to stop about 1.5 inches or centimeters from the edge. So I'm actually going to stop with the needle down, lift up the thread and turn it, and I can see that I'm clear out to 2 centimeters. So that shows me that I need to take about 2 more stitches this way, and I'm going to walk it by hand to get it into the right position. Now when I lift it up and turn it, I can see that I'm right on the 1.5 centimeter line. So put the presser foot down, and notice that the needle being in the down position then makes that very easy to turn a corner so that you don't have a hole in the corner of your pocket. Then you're going to keep on sewing straight across to the other corner. Okay, when you think you're getting close to 1.5 centimeters, don't sew over any pins, but go ahead and stop. And then lift up your presser foot and turn it. I'm a little bit, it looks like I need 1 more stitch, so I'm gonna put 1 more stitch in by walking the hand wheel with my hand. and then turn it, and then stitch up to the other top side of the pocket. When you come close to the end, you want to make sure to come all the way to the end of the fabric, keeping that facing tucked in there. Then push your back stitch button and go back for 5 stitches, let go, and then stitch exactly on top of where you just sewed before to get a nice back stitch. You'll notice your needle will stop in the down position, so push the up and down button to raise the needle. Then you can lift up your presser foot. If you'll take the time to pull your thread about 10 centimeters, maybe to the edge of the needle plate here, cut it there. That will give you a long enough tail so that your next stitch you won't have to worry about your needle coming unthreaded. Go back to the other side and trim those threads. And then you're ready to go to the ironing board. Once you've finished stitching that guideline in for your pocket, you're going to trim off the bulk of this corner here and this corner here. You want to be careful to be about 1 or 2 millimeters, less than 1/8 of an inch, inside the thread on both ends so that you don't cut through your stitching line, or that will give you a hole at the top of your pocket. So as I cut it, I'm cutting just inside, leaving just a little bit of space. And this will get rid of the bulk, and it will help it to fold neatly as you stitch it over. And you need to throw those scraps away properly. Okay, the next thing that you're going to do is we're going to flip the facing that you just created with this back stitch here and turn it to the inside, or to the wrong side, and that area where I just cut the triangle. And you want to try and get a right angle. So we're going to come to the edge, and if you use the square end of your seam gauge ruler and poke it in there, you can get a nice right angle at the top of your apron pocket. Some people don't pull it out all the way and they get an angle that looks like that. But if you can try and push it in on both corners, then you'll have a facing going to the inside with a nice right angle, and that's what meat standard looks like. So before we press the top down, we're actually going to press the 2 sides, and you want to stitch or press it so that the stitching line that you just put in just barely shows on the inside, on the wrong side. So we're going to start here and press up to the top on this side and hold that for about 10 seconds. Then come over to the other side. And again, you should, if you can't see this stitching line on the back side, then you haven't folded it far enough. Press that again, hold it in position, about 10 seconds for a nice crease. Then you're going to reverse fold that facing, and this part here, this finished edge up here, is what's called the facing at the top of your pocket. And we're going to press that. You're basically reverse folding it on that same 1.5 centimeter crease that you had the first time. And then at the bottom, you need one more time to press this up. And you want to try to avoid having this seam allowance here hang out over this edge. So sometimes you just have to roll it in a little bit more so that it doesn't show from the right side. Then you're ready. The next thing that we need to do to finish the pocket preparation, to have it ready to put onto your apron, is you're going to take it to the sewing machine and you're going to back stitch about 1/8 of an inch from the edge and stitch all the way across. That's about 3 millimeters, and back stitch here and attach that facing down from the wrong side, and that will have your pocket ready to put onto your apron. So let's go do that at the sewing machine. Start sewing the facing on your pocket. It's a little thick at the very beginning, so you want to wrap the tail of thread around your finger and use your left hand to help pull it as you start sewing. The other thing I want you to notice, this is 1.5 centimeters here if you look at this edge, but what I like to do is on this inside edge of your plastic presser foot, put this edge of the fabric right along there, and that will give you a consistent amount all the way across. So for the first 5 stitches where I'm doing the back stitch, I'm going to pull it with my left hand on those 2 tails of thread. And after I've gone 5 stitches, I'm backing up. 1, 2. And then one more time, as it goes forward again, it should feed through. But just go ahead and make sure that you sew it smoothly. So the inside edge of the facing is going to the inside edge of that plastic part of the presser foot. As you come to the end, it's going to be a little bit thick, so if you have your hand in the back and you can kind of help pull it through if it has trouble feeding through, if you have a thick fabric. And then when you get to the end, just before it goes off the edge, then push the back stitch button. And then go forward again, right over where you sewed the first time. And then you can trim the thread there. And now you have your pocket ready to attach to your apron. When you're ready to pin your pocket onto your apron, notice your mark that you put on the fabric at the 36 centimeter mark. You can see that light pink mark with the chalk. And then you want to find the center of your pocket and put it right along that line there. We're actually going to match and you want the top of the pocket to just cover over that chalk mark, so then it doesn't show from the right side. And then you lay it on, and when you pin it on, you're going to put 2 perpendicular pins at the top. So go through the pocket, go through the apron down to the table, lift it up and come through. And then on the other side as well, go through the pocket, through the apron, turn it and go through there. And that will secure the top, but you're not going to sew across the top. We're going to be sewing on the 3 sides. So at the bottom corner, you want to put a diagonal pin to indicate where we're going to turn. And I'm putting the pin so that it's about 3/8 of an inch, which is about 6 millimeters, 7. And another diagonal pin in the opposite corner. And go through the pocket, through the apron, lift it up and come back up. Okay, and then we will go stitch that on these 3 sides, and then we're going to come down and put, I'm going to move this over just a little bit so that the stripe matches. And we'll put another seam in the middle of the pocket right along here to divide it into 2 pockets at the end. Okay, so let's go stitch the pocket on. Practiced your pocket stitching on your stitch sampler for 7th grade. So you're going to bring your pocket in, and with the inside edge of your presser foot, you're going to make sure that that edge is always stitching along the edge of your pocket. This is top stitching because the fabric is covering up the needle plate where you can't see what the distance in centimeters is. So make sure that you have the edge there. I want my first stitch to be just above the top of the pocket, actually onto the apron itself, and that will help reinforce the stitching so that your pocket will be sewn secure. So as I start sewing, I make sure that my eye is watching this edge here to the inside edge, and that will give me a smooth, consistent amount for the top stitching. And make sure to back stitch on both the top edges of the pocket, then go forward again. When you come close to the end, you want to stop a little bit before the end, so don't go all the way to the very end. And then I'm going to put my needle down and just check my measurement. So I'll turn it 90 degrees and look, and I've guessed well this time, so the edge of my bottom edge of the pocket matches right along the outside edge of the presser foot. So then be careful not to let your apron fabric get tucked under there, or you'll have to rip it out. So make it nice and smooth, and then stitch across the bottom edge of your pocket. Okay, as you come close to the end, again, you don't want to go all the way to the end. Stop a little bit before. Go one more stitch and then check it. And again, so that you have the outside edge, this time it's the side edge of the pocket matching the presser foot. Okay, and as you come to the end, you want to make sure that the pocket is attached securely, so you're going to go to the very end, then backstitch, then go forward again. I'm going to take one last stitch off of the pocket so that it connects it to just the apron, and that will stitch your pocket on securely. Lift up your presser foot and trim your threads. Pull it out about 10 centimeters each time, and then cut it from the top, and then turn it over and cut the bobbin thread from the back right at the edge of the fabric. And now we want to come to that center crease line, and we want to, it's this one right here, start right at the bottom stitching line that you had before. So I'm not going to be at the edge of the apron, but right at that bottom seam line, and I'm going to be going right along. Oops, that right there. Get in the right position. Okay, we're going to go down, and you need to back stitch on both ends, and it's very important right here to remember to stitch from the bottom to the top. If you go from the top down, sometimes you can end up with a tuck like that. But if you start at the bottom, it will just smooth it up as you go forward. So don't forget that important part. And this time go all the way to the top of the pocket, back stitch. And again, when you lift up the presser foot, pull it out about 10 centimeters. And trim the top, and trim the bobbin thread from the back. You can see it right there. And then go back to the beginning and trim the top thread, and on the back you can trim this thread here. Okay, loose tails of thread that haven't been trimmed off do not meet standard, but you can tell from the back side. Here's one that I missed. I need to go back and trim that. Okay, and at this point, if your pocket is completely attached, you're ready to bring it to the teacher and have a picture taken with your pocket attached to your apron, and that's your ending of your pocket.